Welcome back. You are listening to Nate the Hate on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, as we are rapidly approaching 25,000 subscribers. And though we did miss the original deadline of having 25,000 subscribers before the end of August, we are extending it to the end of September. And if we achieve 25,000 subscribers before the conclusion of September, MVG and myself will do a live stream to celebrate the achievement with the community, where we will have game giveaways and much more. So be sure to subscribe and give that video a like. And with that, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Modern Vintage Gamer.
What's going on, Nate? It's great to be here. Everyone, hit that subscribe button. I've got some. I'm thinking about some good prizes. But you know what? We need people to get on board with this, and I'm cooking up some good stuff for giveaways. And I think we can give away a couple of digital codes, but we can also give away some physical stuff because I work at Limited Run, so I've got a few things I could give away, a couple of goodies. So everyone, hit that subscribe button, get to 25K, so we can get that live stream going. Otherwise, I'm doing well. How are you, Nate? I know it's been a little while since the last show, but it's good to be back.
I am doing well as well, and I am looking forward to discussing the topic we have for this week. But before I introduce the topic, I have to introduce our special guest for this episode, and we have Yacht Club Games' Celia joining us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
A nice change of pace from you from the usual chaos that is Game and Talk with RGT.
I've heard about that show.
It's fun. You guys should you should listen to it. Nate's pretty fun there too.
I can be. I have my moments.
I was on there once, if you guys recall, and I never came back because Sean insulted me because I said ARMS was the most underrated game on that Nintendo has made. It was something along those lines, and he did not like that answer, and I never came back after that.
I mean, you made the right decision there. ARMS deserves far more love and appreciation. We can't even get him to play it for a battle of the sexes on Game and Talk because he refuses to acknowledge the greatness that is ARMS, but one day we will be able to convince him otherwise. And I'd like to give out a dedication to the Zelda Sensei, whom generously donated $100 to support the channel. If you'd like to support the channel, we have a Streamlabs link in the description below. Donate any dollar amount, ask a question, we will answer it at the end of the episode. Donate $100 or more, and we will dedicate the episode to you. Today's episode, once again, is dedicated to the Zelda Sensei. Now, to start this episode, I have a very important question I want to pose to both of you, as you each represent kind of two different spectrums of the gaming industry. MVG, you are the developer. You more operate in the shadows and the back end, whereas Celia is more front and center. She deals with the marketing and the publicity and putting out those marketing videos you see in directs and Twitter and such. So you're kind of that social media guru, versus MVG being more of the development troll.
Yeah, it's fair. Was there a follow-up question?
I have.
Yeah, was there a question? I was waiting.
I may not even edit that part out. I'm just going to leave it in there so people are confused.
Yes, there is a question. And the question is, how important is the eShop to your business? And when creating a game, is the eShop one of your primary target platforms when it comes to the Nintendo Switch?
Celia, you go ahead first.
Okay.
I will give you my thoughts.
Yeah, sure. So for context, for Yacht Club Games, the eShop is a priority. It kind of depends on what your audience's prime platform is. Some people tend to focus more on Steam. Some people focus on PlayStation or Xbox. But for our studio, I would say our best sales are for Steam and Switch. So yeah, the eShop is very important for the ecosystem. And for that, it's just kind of one of those things of, if it's visible, we get sales. That's how people discover us. So yeah.
Yeah, from my perspective, obviously working at Limited Run Games, we predominantly focus on physical products. And you could easily just say, well, the eShop is not a priority for us, but that's actually incorrect. The eShop is important to the Limited Run Games business. And the reason why I say that is because we are also very much trying to push into the digital publishing side of the arena as well. And we've done a couple of things this year, and we've done some things last year. Earlier this year, we released RZ, originally on the eShop, and it came out physically, later. So we were very much keeping a close eye on the digital sales on the eShop and other places, like you said, Silly, like Steam, and PlayStation Network and Xbox Marketplace, whatever you call it. And we've continued to try to make more inroads into the world of digital publishing. So even with our most recent Carbon Engine release, which was Tomba, which came out in August, we were very much focused on a successful digital launch. So we definitely see that as very important to our business.
See, over the course of the Switch generation, we saw a great evolution with the eShop. In the early days, it was a highly curated shop where you had indie companies come out and express frustration with how curated the eShop was being handled, as some Wii U developers were trying to get their games over to the eShop, and they had allegedly put out claims that Nintendo was blocking such ports for release because Nintendo was prioritizing Switch games or original games for the Switch. And this led to a lot of frustration where there were numerous indie developers, even some third-party developers, going to social media to express their frustrations. And, naturally the gaming community got behind these developers because they wanted these games on the Switch, even if they had previously been released on the Wii U. And in the early days of the Switch, one of the premier launch games was a Shovel Knight game. And it did very well. It was digital only. And over time, Nintendo began to loosen the reins a little bit, especially with those indie games and Wii U ports. And then the floodgates kind of just were unleashed. Once the floodgates were opened, tons of games started to come in. And now you go on the eShop, you have hentai puzzle games, you have ecchi games, you have paint by number games. And there's a lot of basically shovelware now populating that eShop, very similar to what we have from Steam. And we've kind of done a full-on 180, whereas early maybe they were too restrictive or they were too strict with their policy. Now they're too loose with the policy. And I do want to read an excerpt that I got from a development friend who wishes to remain anonymous as they express their thoughts on the Nintendo eShop and some of their hopes for the Nintendo Switch 2 eShop and how Nintendo could possibly approach a revised look at their digital store. And they write, Nintendo's eShop is a visibility nightmare for developers. Once a game falls off the charts, it essentially vanishes from the platform, making discoverability a serious issue. While platforms such as Steam have actually improved visibility in recent years, on the eShop, developers have experienced a steep decline in sales. The problem lies in how the eShop charts work. Chart rankings are based on the number of units sold rather than total revenue. This is routinely exploited with low-effort asset-flipped games dominating the charts by slashing prices, which is why you'll see a lot of games heavily discounted to under $1. This artificial boosting in sales numbers will often secure them a position in the charts, leaving higher quality titles struggling to compete. As a result, many devs feel pressured to discount their own games in order to have a shot at charting on launch day. It's possible to negate this slightly if Nintendo is willing to offer pre-launch support, such as a feature in their newsletter, but this kind of backing is not guaranteed. Looking ahead to the Switch 2 eShop, I'd hope Nintendo can look at ways to offer more visibility opportunities for developers, and that they take more active role in curating content if they aren't willing to change how they determine their chart rankings. Ideally, they'll address the gamification tactics that allow discount-driven titles to dominate and create a more balanced ecosystem that supports quality over quick sales hack.
I wanted to ask you guys, what is the cheapest price that you can set a game on the eShop? Because I've heard Nintendo there was some kind of loophole where you could like set them as free, and I think Nintendo came and addressed that, and now you can't make your games free. So is $1 the cheapest that you can have on the eShop right now, or is that something that they've come in and adjusted?
The cheapest I've seen is $1.
Okay.
I would have to double check, but that's what I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, again, I'm not really that versed on kind of the eShop charts and how that works, but if it is based on number of units, then that's definitely something that I would like Nintendo to address, because yes, that can easily be exploited, in some kind of nefarious ways, I would say. So, I think this person brings up some interesting points about what would you do to improve. I do think that the concept of having game sales versus revenue is something that should be looked at. Having it done by revenue, I think, would make a lot more sense, and it would kind of make those charts seem a lot more in line with reality. But there's also more to it than that, because your game has to kind of get on the charts, I guess, first for it to kind of get recognized. And look, unfortunately, again, I don't have that much experience in the eShop stuff, but I've seen a little bit of it. I am familiar with it and how it works to some degree. But I will say this, I mean, if you want to get your game kind of in there in the mix, unfortunately you have to kind of spend some marketing dollars, it seems like, right, to get your game out there. And I'm not really sure what that would entail, but I kind of treat it the same way as if you want to get on the front page of Twitch or something like that, or the front page of Steam or whatever. You're going to have to throw some money at it. So I don't know if that's something that Nintendo is willing to kind of make changes to, or maybe open up the barrier of entry for that. But it's a very, very interesting discussion about where the eShop will land with the next system. I do also agree, Nate, that it seems like Nintendo has just kind of opened up the floodgates and just let all sorts of stuff go through. And look, some of this stuff, I'm not even sure how it even passes certification and even gets to that point where they can actually have a store page, but that's a separate conversation, I guess. But I do think that there needs to be more checks and balances along the way as to what actually gets on the eShop. And I think a lot of it has to do with when COVID hit. I think Nintendo kind of just relaxed a little bit and just kind of let it go, and they haven't really come back and put the clamps back on. So I do think that I guess the key takeaways is basically take a look at the games that you're letting go through, and just don't let everything go through. Maybe do a little bit more looking at these games and saying, look, this is not something that's appropriate for Nintendo, or it's just not a good game, or it's not even a game at all. And things like that need to be looked at. But at the end of the day, I'm not really sure how much Nintendo can do, especially when the Switch is very popular and a lot of people are putting their stuff or their games on the Switch. You're going to have so many things on the eShop, unfortunately. And look, there's going to be people that are going to always feel like their game or their product is just not something that can be seen by anyone. And look, and Celia, you can probably talk to this part, but this is at that point, I feel like, you need to be getting on Twitter. You need to have your social media people and you're doing all those things to kind of get your game, in the names of people.
So the visibility of the marketing cycle of a game has been getting smaller and smaller. It's not like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when there was these huge lead up windows post game launch and pre-launch as well, where there was a lot of focus and a lot of media attention and a lot of console support for that game. The excerpt does make a lot of really good points, because once the game does fall off the chart, it is almost impossible unless the person is searching for it for
Mm.
them to find it. And like one of the things that like I wish they touched on is an algorithm. Um, Switch does not really have one in the same sense of if you play Zelda, then you would like Tunic. There's no, or you like Souls like games, you would like Tunic, depending on what you're playing with. But like, or you like Tetris, you would like Bubble Bobble, or like, things like that where you can discover games. There really isn't that unless you want to like search down the discovery behemoth that freezes every 3 minutes.
Mhm.
Um, as for visibility, it does touch on that there is support, but it is not guaranteed. That is correct. All marketing efforts, there is a marketing dollar attached to it technically because they're giving that attention and they only have a limited amount. So it's depending on what games they're choosing to highlight at that time. One thing that MVG was incorrect on, Nintendo is not like Steam. I have to be vague about this. It's not like Steam and it's not like PlayStation. You don't buy ad space. That's really cool about Nintendo that they're not like that. But featuring is something that there's only one like strawberry and we're all fighting for it
Mhm.
basically. But like, yeah, I do agree with this. And I really hope that there's other visibility opportunities for developers because in that 2 week cycle, it's the 2 week lead up with pre-orders. You can pre-order later on, earlier on, but that cycle right before launch and then post launch, that 2 weeks of when a lot of people are excited about your game and playing your game. So the units are bumping you up that list for visibility. That's kind of what you get. And it would be cool if there was options or spotlight opportunities to, even though your game has been out for a while, to be able to have that visibility because it is hard. And then you do have to rely on social media, but then you're fighting a whole new algorithm. Twitter changes every 5 minutes or X or wherever we want to call it. Like Instagram and TikTok and like whatever else is next. It's hard to battle with. So having more opportunities where the future console prospects to get your game out there and extend the life cycle, especially since games are taking longer and longer to develop, would be really fantastic.
Does the eShop have the rating system where you can give a 5-star rating or a rating out of 5 stars? Just because I think Xbox and PlayStation has that. Does the Switch have that eShop?
If there is, I have not checked it for our games.
Well, that's another thing that's always of interest to me because, again, when our games get published digitally, you can always just jump on Steam. I can see the number of people that have reviewed the game, where it's what they've rated it. Same thing with PlayStation. We look at the the ranking out of 5 stars. So we look at those numbers. On Xbox, I think you can actually write a review as well. So you can leave a star rating. You can also add a review. We look at those as well. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some areas where I think Nintendo could improve in that regard.
See, you both bring up interesting points, especially with the algorithm. So I want to go into like the next topic of talking about hopes and wants from the Switch 2 eShop. And obviously the algorithm type of recommendation mentioned here would be one of them. And I want to touch on the point you just brought up there, MVG, with Xbox and Steam and even PlayStation having the rating system on a system level as well as a store level. And you're correct, the Xbox does allow for text reviews, very similar to Steam. And one of the other benefits that would give a developer or a publisher is that it gives immediate feedback. You can go to Steam right now or Xbox, and you can have users express that they're encountering bugs and other issues you may not be aware of unless you're going to the forums or Twitter or maybe YouTube to have a Switch user say, hey, I'm playing Tomba. I saved at this state and the game locked up. Without having that direct and immediate feedback, you may not be aware of this glitch. You have to search for it. So that's definitely an area that Nintendo should look to improve their eShop going into the new generation. And as you both mentioned with the algorithm, you need that type of recommendation system on a digital store level. If you are playing Tomba or Shovel Knight, recommend other games, not just from that publisher, but also of that genre. and allow them to list it so that the user stays engaged from the digital store and can purchase more games and also help out other indie studios or third party partners. So, as we look at the eShop as it is today on the Switch, it's very basic, it's very rudimentary, and it's definitely in need of a substantial overhaul to make it more modern and more accessible for all parties involved. So let's go into some of the hopes and wants you do want to see from the Switch 2 eShop, and feel free to repeat the ones you already mentioned over the last couple of minutes and just flesh out a little more of your thoughts on how you'd want to see it implemented.
We will probably never see a written review like system with the Nintendo Switch or whatever they do in the future. The reason that I believe that is that Nintendo has a lot of like, and child protective things, like how they don't have like voice chat in the games. You have to go on the separate app for that. And I don't know if you've read a lot of Steam reviews, like,
oh yeah,
people go off. People go incredibly off on those things. So I would, and Nintendo always protecting their image. I feel like it just wouldn't make sense as a brand to get negative press of, even though there are like, I know that Nintendo has, M-rated games, and they literally have hentai games now in the eShop, but it's still attached to their brand. And having people write reviews, inappropriate reviews on maybe Zelda or Pokemon, just risking that, it just doesn't seem like something that they would want to even open that door from. With that said, things that I would love to see: a star system. We're never going to get written, so having stars and people being able to rate the games is an incredible way for indie discovery. I will see a game, look it up on Steam, and see what the reviews are. And if it's mostly positive, I'll be like, okay, I'll give it a try, and I'll like check it out on Switch. Being able to do that, I think, is incredible. Like I said before, having like a better, more enhanced algorithm with discovery. If you like this game, you should check out this one. Having discount bundles where if you own a certain game, you'd get a discount on another. Availability with, I'm just gonna start listing stuff, guys. Availability with spotlight sales. I would love that. Like on Steam, you can pick, you can put things on sale for a week that's not attached to a sale. You can put it on sale pretty often, and it would be really cool to be able to do that on console in general. That's just something that's just not available to us, obviously, because platforms, it takes a long time. There's a lot of intricacies with that, but that would be just so incredible. So you can hit those certain beats, and console players are also included in those deals. Because like, with Yacht Club, I'm public facing. So besides like, running all the sales and getting the promotion with the platforms, a part of my job is connecting with the community. And it makes me bummed out sometimes where I'm like, oh, I have a sale on Steam. It's a flash sale, whoa, cool, great. We're doing it. And then they're like, oh, what about console? And I'm unable to give, if you want to play it on Switch because you can't play on your PC or whatever. It really sucks because, I hate leaving out the community and making them feel like they don't have a fair end of the deal. So that's something that I'd want. And then like lastly, because I'm just rambling now, load times when scrolling through the eShop. It drives me crazy. And the thing is though, is that I initially thought it was my internet. I was like, oh geez, you gotta upgrade that, that bandwidth because something's messed up here. And then I like went to my friend's house on their Switch and was like, oh, let's alert the Switch store. And it took like forever to load. And it was just so long. And I have such patience. I had dial-up AOL internet. And I leave frustrated. I don't even keep on searching because it's too hard to get down the list to actually find games that I'm not aware of that I wouldn't just search for. And like, I'm there ready to buy. Like, I'm like, okay, like I'm going to buy a new game. Let's just pick one. And I can't even get to the games that I would want.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That was actually the first thing I was going to say was they need to revamp that application, the actual app. It seems like everything is running on the server, on server side, and there is no kind of caching or there's no, there's nothing happening on your system on the client, right? So everything is just being kind of pulled off the internet, and it doesn't seem like, there's any real optimization that was ever done. Probably because when they built the app itself to facilitate the eShop on the Switch, I don't think they realized the amount of products that would be on this service, at this point. Maybe they didn't really, they kind of underestimated how many maybe this thing could actually handle before it started to literally just start shitting itself. And look, so many people keep telling me, don't bother with the app, use the website. And look, that's fine, because the website is obviously a much smoother experience when it comes to browsing. But ultimately, this is the Switch, this is the eShop. The app should be the most optimized, well-crafted app that runs on the platform for me. So I agree. They really need to revamp the application, and hopefully they will do that. I think that's... Look, honestly, the developer in me is just thinking that's probably something that they've already figured out for the next system. At least I would hope so. The other thing that I would like to see, again, we kind of touched on the star rating system. I think that's an awesome feature to have. And it just kind of puts it in line with PlayStation and Xbox as well. It's always interesting, especially if your game is, cross-platform or multi-platform, I should say, to see the differences in, what people think about the release on a certain platform. The written review thing, I definitely understand what Celia is saying, and I think Nintendo's probably never going to do that. But one kind of counter... It's not really a counter argument, but a counterpoint, I will say, is that there's many times where I will go on the Steam forums, and for anyone that's the developer that has a game, do not go to the Steam forums if you know what's good for your mental health, because it's the worst. But there's going to be some people that will say, this got fixed. When is this fix dropping on the Switch, or when is this game coming out for the Switch? They'll reference the Nintendo Switch, right, on the Steam forums, and I've seen this come up at least 5 or 6 times when I've gone through the Steam forums, looking at people's thoughts on the game and going through bug triage notes and stuff like that. And there's a lot of references to when is this XYZ fix or this patch or whatever going to the Switch, because obviously people don't really have a voice on that platform. They can't really communicate there. And so I do think that Nintendo should have some type of way where, I'm not saying it's a it's a written review thing, but maybe just open it up a little more where developers can put patch notes in and stuff like that, to kind of just let people know what's going on. And Celia, tell me if I'm wrong, but when you submit a patch to the eShop or there's an update to a game, there's no way a developer can add notes, right? As far as I know, I've never seen that before. But tell me if I'm wrong.
Not directly, but you can add to your Nintendo News.
Okay.
And you can have that pop up, like if you own the game, it'll pop up when you turn on your Switch, and you can mention that in there. To be honest, Nintendo News isn't utilized as much as maybe it should be. To be honest, I don't use it as much as I should. I should work on that. Where you can give updates of, hey, you can do it anytime. Like a patch is coming. This is what's going to be in there. Flavor text. Hi, what's up? Kind of dealio. But yeah, no, it's not as on the fly.
Well, on Steam, when you publish an update or a patch, it will ask you to submit patch notes. And you don't have to, but most people do. And I think it's a really easy way of, the player knowing what's coming down the line. So, look, written reviews, probably never going to happen. You're right. Nintendo's obviously very family friendly, and they don't want to put themselves in a situation where a bunch of AI spam bots start just going crazy. Absolutely could happen. But I do think they should open up some type of area where developers potentially could add notes to their game or patch notes or something, just to let people know what's going on. I think that would be really cool.
See, from a consumer perspective, you're both talking from like the industry side, from a developer, publisher side, I want to see some more basic functionality, though in line with what both of you have expressed. I want to be able to sort games based on rating. I want to be able to see if you have a, 5-star, 4-star rating. I also want to have that algorithm-based recommendation system where even if just, hey, based on your play history, we are recommending these games, or based on the games that you are viewing right now, we recommend these games. Very basic things that we have seen be utilized by PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, Amazon, really any digital store interface that you interact with in 2024.
Have you ever used that though? Like, and I'm not trying to be a smart ass or anything, but have you ever you're on the game that you want, and then down the bottom it says, "Oh, you like this? Then try these games." Is that something that you would click into? Because I personally don't. I kind of usually am pretty. I know I'm usually like knowing what I want to play. So my level of commitment on an eShop is pretty fast. I'm usually on there. I grab what I want, and then I'm kind of playing the game type of thing. I don't really browse the store and not really look at recommendations. But I'm not saying that people don't. But do you look at recommendations, Celia? Do you look at recommendations at all?
Yeah, I do. I'm nosy. I love just like looking around. And like that's why I'll try to go in discovery and then do the doom scroll and then get frustrated when it resets and I'm back at the top and all my hard work is wasted. Whenever something's recommended, I'll check it out. I'll watch the trailer. I'll add it to my wish list. Yeah.
Nate, do you look at recommendations?
It depends on the platform, but in the case of, let's say, Xbox or PlayStation, I will look at a recommendation, especially in the advent of Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, where they might be recommending me a game of a genre type of a game that I'm playing on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, that there's another title within that service that maybe is of interest to me that I didn't know was part of the service. So it's not exactly in the way that you would be describing in terms of a recommendation to purchase, but it would be a recommendation of something I may consider to download from those services that they provide. So at times, yes, I do look at the recommendations. But in general, for other digital platforms like an Amazon or Best Buy, GameStop, whomever, I will look at those recommendations to see, oh, what did people bundle with this product? Maybe it'd be something of interest for me. If I'm in the market for a new keyboard or something, I'll say, oh, people also bought this keyboard cleaner. Like, oh, for an extra $5, I may as well make that a bundle. So things like that, I do look for recommendations. Overall, for the Switch 2 eShop, though, I think Nintendo is going to enhance it significantly because we also have to consider that this eShop on the Switch 2 will also be housing Switch 1 games. That current library of digital games and physical games, everything that's currently on the Switch, will also be on this eShop because of backwards compatibility, which means they have to come up with a good filter system. There has to be a way I can check just Switch 2 games of interest or all games of interest. So they have to go kind of a very aggressive route, be it through algorithm or something, because otherwise the Switch 2 games are going to be battling the thousands of Switch games. And we know Switch games are going to be releasing even after the introduction of Switch 2. So they have to come up with a curated system to really allow you to easily navigate the offerings that will be on the eShop.
So this is not a new problem for them. Obviously, if you think about the Wii U, this is something that they had to figure out on the virtual console, or the Wii shop, I should say, the Wii U shop, for backward compatibility, virtual console games, Wii games. So they've done this before, right? So I don't necessarily think
but on a far more limited scale. When you went to the Wii U digital store, the amount of Wii offerings on backwards compatibility in terms of actual Wii games were very few. With the virtual console, it was really, they broke it down. This is the virtual console section. Whereas now, this is going to be full on, this is everything. You have thousands of Switch games. Between the Wii, on the Wii U, you weren't going through thousands of virtual console games.
What I think,
a couple hundred.
what I think they're going to do, and again, I don't know this, but what I think they're going to do is they're going to silo the two. So even though it's going to be one app that seems like it holds everything, it's going to be like that Call of Duty launcher, Nate, where you click over here and you're basically in the Switch eShop, the legacy stuff. Otherwise, you're just in the new stuff. If that makes sense. I don't think they're going to, combine them into one big thing, because that sounds like they're not really solving the problem of, trying to optimize this new experience to make it, run much better. I think they're going to basically take what they have and they're going to make it available, but it's not going to be, mixed in with the Switch 2 stuff. Personally, I think that's what I would think.
I mean, when we look at the PlayStation Store or the Xbox Store, it's a unified store that did unite their previous generation with the current generation. You think Nintendo would be the sole, exception that they would create kind of a standalone Switch 2 store?
Maybe. There's how many titles are on the eShop?
Oh God,
50,000, 100,000.
That seems way too high.
Does it?
I have no idea. I wonder if Google knows.
Well, part of me just wonders, are they just going to just rope this off, make it available, keep it available for as long as they can. But I don't know, there's so much legacy there, that they have to figure out what to do with. So I don't know. I may be way off on this one. What would be the advantage though, Nate, of if they did, like you said, mix everything in together into one, combine everything into one unified, storefront, which makes a lot of sense because, like you said, their competitors do the same thing and they have done that for years. But what would be the I guess in your mind the advantage of having that unified storefront, other than you don't have to click on this other app to get access to the legacy Switch stuff?
So according to the Nintendo website, when I click on Switch games, it shows 21,500 listings. Ooh. Now there will be some duplicates involved there.
21,000.
It's a lot of games.
That is a ton of games.
I'm glad that you pointed that out first, because on their website, when they're advertising eShop gift cards, it says choose from over 5,000 new classic or indie titles.
Needs to be updated.
They have not updated. That's so funny.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of games. But I think by having that unified storefront is that if I am to purchase a Switch 2, and let's say I didn't own a Switch for some reason, there's that vast legacy of Switch games that will never get a native Switch 2 version that it's going on sale. I'm going to go on the eShop. I'm going to see that on the sale. And now you might get that legacy purchase. Also, if you have Switch 1 games that could potentially get some sort of patch or Switch 2 enhancement, and I want to re-download it on my Switch 2, I want to be able to do this easily. I don't want to be having to jump through 2 different stores to find previously owned games or anything, because we know that this account that we currently have on the Switch is going to transfer over. All of our purchases are going to come with us. And I think that's where I see them kind of following a similar approach as Microsoft and Sony have. And it is a huge, undertaking for them to come up with a coherent storefront that is simplified enough that the user can go in and just say, okay, I want my Switch 2 games. And when you look at the PlayStation Store, you go to the side, you check the filter, you just hit PS5, and it will show you PlayStation 5 only games. So Nintendo can do something that simple. But I've also been a very vocal opponent of the PlayStation Store. I don't think the PlayStation Store on PlayStation 5 is all that good. I think it has a discoverability issue. I think
it does.
That there's a lot of content that is hidden, that it's just not curated all that well. And Sony isn't doing anything to really confront that issue. So Nintendo is going to have quite the task ahead of themselves to really make the eShop on the Switch to, appealing to the consumer, but also appealing to partners. Because as has been expressed by both of you earlier, the eShop as it stands is just not granting the opportunities that it once did. Back in 2017 and 2018, when the Switch was new and there weren't hundreds of games releasing every single week, your indie games had a time and they could stand out and, build some popularity and net huge sales. And that's just not happening today unless you are very fortunate and you are a headline trailer in a Nintendo Direct and Nintendo's tweeting about your game and they're building up that hype and anticipation going forward towards your release, like the release we saw this week with the Plucky Squire. A lot of marketing behind that game. So that has a decent chance of doing well on the eShop, but not every indie game is given that opportunity. Whereas back in 2017, games like Fast RMX had a chance to sell well just based on word of mouth. They weren't falling out of the charts, one, because there was really no competition. But we've seen some of the more popular indie studios going back to the DSi or even 3DS and Wii U generation, where the games they're coming out with today from these studios aren't finding success. One game in mind is Gunman Clive, from a solo individual, did huge on the Wii U. Was also very popular on the 3DS. Came to the Switch with a sequel. Didn't do anything because it's far more competitive today, especially compared to those prior platforms. So I think Nintendo just has to do a full-on overhaul of the eShop. They have to make drastic changes, and I think that would involve a 5-star rating system, algorithm-based recommendations, and some form of curating exactly what is on the eShop.
With the, I'm fixated on this written review stuff, Celia.
Yeah.
What if they had what if Nintendo had just like a predetermined drop down of responses, like yay or no, this game sucks or this game's awesome, where people can just pick from and then post that type of thing.
I just feel like a drop down would be like a half step and something that they probably would be more okay with. It's just me assuming, obviously I don't work for them, but I don't know. I just feel like they wouldn't invite that.
Yeah.
Because
right.
You also have to think about it is that Nintendo has been able to avoid review bombing.
That's true.
That's not a problem in the Nintendo ecosystem.
That is true.
I feel like someone on Reddit would be like, wouldn't it be really funny for the next Breath of the Wild 3 or whatever the heck they call it, if we all gave it a 1 star and we sunk it? You know what I mean? So I feel like even with that, it would be safeguarded. Where they would have the final say with the reviews, which doesn't make sense for reviews. But I don't know. I just feel like they wouldn't allow that.
I mean, they could do the verified review approach that we see on Steam.
No, but still.
You have to purchase the game with a verified Nintendo account type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a little more sense.
You give your rating, and then if Nintendo did do some kind of pull-down menu of a smiley face or a frowny face or a melancholic face as a rating, maybe they do something like that, but they need a rating system of some kind.
Yeah.
It can't operate the way it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, that's the biggest kind of thing, other than just the performance of the storefront on the Switch.
I also want a cart system. I want to be able to put multiple games in my cart.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I'd like that idea too, where you can just kind of grab a bunch of things, especially if there's an eShop sale going on.
Yeah.
Where there's a whole bunch of games that are discounted to a couple of dollars and you've got $20 to spend. That actually makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see that. Yeah. I do that with Steam sales all the time. Just grab all the games I want and then just check out one time. That would be really, really helpful.
Because I'll say, if there's a sale on the eShop, let's say today, and there's 5 games I want, it's so slow and janky that by the time I purchase one, I'm kind of sitting there saying, forget it. I'm not going back for the other 4. If I can add all 5 at the same time, I will purchase them all, but I'm not waiting 30 seconds for all the listings to load to then spend another 30 seconds trying to move down the page to find it, or to even type in the title and watch the whole app struggle to come up with the proper title and then list the game listing. It takes too long. So a cart system where I can add in everything would do wonders. And these are all very basic things that we have given recommendations in terms of hopes and wants from the switch to eShop. None of this is outrageous. These are things that you just come to expect from a digital storefront in 2024.
What would be an outrageous one that you would like?
Ooh, I have one. Returns. Just kidding.
I was going to say something along those lines of like returning a game, getting a refund.
Yeah, we can't do that. And I know it sounds counterintuitive because I'm a developer and I want people to buy our games. But if you're not having fun, like forcing someone to keep the game, I think sucks. And that's another reason why, I love like physical media. Because you can return it if you don't like it. But also this is like something that I've always wanted that will never happen. Because there's too many issues with it. I wish you could share a single game code. Like I could let my friend borrow it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it activates, and when it's in use, you can't also use it, but then you can deactivate and then give it to someone else. I know, that's another reason why I like physical games, because I can let my friends borrow it and we can try a bunch of different games together. So being able to do that on the eShop, or like for a limited time, let your friend try it would be so cool. That's like unreasonable, and like I have no idea what would get put into that. That's something won't happen, and I shouldn't be rooting for that because I sell games. But it'd be so cool as a consumer.
I'm all for refunds as well. I think you're absolutely right. If you don't like the game, then you should be able to return it. And obviously Steam allows you to do that. You have a 2-hour window. I believe you can do it on Xbox. It's a little more hoops to jump through. I believe you can do it on PlayStation. I think it involves getting customer service involved, but you can do it. I think there should be a way to get a refund on a game. If you're not having fun, or if it's a situation where, I hate to say it, but the game came in hot and reviewers kind of finessed around playing a PC version, and they play the Nintendo version, and it just is not what they thought it was going to be, and they were a little bit misled or something like that, and they just want to return the game because it's buggy, then they should have every right to do so. So that's kind of what I was looking for, something a little along the lines of a refund process that they potentially could have.
Yeah, a refund would be a cool idea. Even if they try to do a stopgap where they say, okay, we'll give you the refund on this game, but before we give you that refund, would you like to transfer that money to some of these games?
Yeah.
To try to get you into that situation, be like, yeah, I really didn't like Shovel Knight, but for the same price.
he insulted my game saying it was crashing and whatever.
But
that's one's based on
Shovel
truth. Your game did crash on me. So, but I'm playing Shovel Knight. Like, oh, you know what? This isn't really my style of game. But for the same price, I could pick up Tomba. And they just, okay, you're getting a refund for that, and you're gonna purchase this game. So you feel good as the consumer because you have a little bit of confidence in the brand that you're supporting of, well, I don't like it, I can just go right to another one. So you're kind of getting in store credit in a digital sense.
Yeah.
Where you're just going to go to something new. And I think that would be an interesting concept for them to kind of consider as well. But beyond that, I mean, what other outrageous idea could they really do for a digital storefront beyond returns? That's kind of the haven everyone is looking forward to from any of the console manufacturers or any of the digital storefront operators, is that you have that freedom. And does the Switch have a gifting system?
Now, this is a really good question. I don't think it does on the eShop, but you can gift, like you can gift codes off Amazon and stuff, right?
I bought one of my best friends Stardew Valley. She just got surgery, so I was like, I have a present for you. I bought that on like on the eShop. I got the code, but I didn't buy it for myself. You can give it to a friend.
Okay, good to know.
Because I was going to say on system gifting, where I go to the eShop and I see the game on sale, 50% off. I purchase it, I gift it, and it just sends it to the account of a friend where you get the notification saying you've been gifted Stardew Valley, and they just have to click the download button with no other interaction.
Well, I gifted Josie Mario Luigi. What's the puzzle game called? Mario vs. Donkey Kong earlier this year. And look, I'm not the world's savviest eShop browser, but I tried to gift it from the eShop to her, and I couldn't really find a way to get a code out of it. So I just bought it on Amazon digitally and got the code and gave her the code. But maybe I may have done something wrong.
You can't
acknowledge
purchase
that
it through eShop and do it.
Okay.
You can buy it online and get the code and give it to them.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I misspoke. Or explained it wrong, I mean.
Okay, so my idea of having a gift giving option on the eShop would be a kind of a radical suggestion. Since we can't do that currently. Okay.
That would be cool.
So, I mean, right now, if you really put everything recommended together for our hopes and wants of a Switch 2 eShop, we have gifting, refunds, algorithmic-based recommendations, and a rating system with potentially tighter curation so that discoverability is higher for new releases, and removing the exploits of individuals who mark down their games to $1 and get high chart ranking because it's ranked based on units and not revenue.
And also remove anything that's not a game. I'm sorry, but shit like calculator and watch and stuff like that doesn't belong on the eShop.
So basically apps that are disguised as games.
Yep.
You don't want, or any asset flips. Like we had that, what was it called? Like The Last of Me or something that was only up there for 2 days before it was taken down. Like how did it get up to begin with?
Yeah. Again, how do you get that game through certification? I don't know. Like,
I don't know either, because like I think earlier in the discussion, you guys said like the floodgates opened and it got easier. It didn't get easier. We have to resubmit occasionally.
Oh.
And it's like, how did they get on? What's the secret?
I don't think I've ever passed cert the first time, Celia, ever.
Yeah.
And then all these like asset flip games just appear every single day. I don't understand.
You see, that's the weird thing, is that when you look back towards the launch of the Switch, when you had well-known indie developers, I think it was Axiom Verge was one of the games they wanted to put the first game on the Switch, and they were told no.
Yeah.
They said, no, it's a Wii U game. We want new games for the Switch eShop in these opening months and year. And the developer kept saying, I want to put it there. Nintendo will not let me. And maybe it was a regional thing where Nintendo of America was being a little more strict, whereas Nintendo in Europe and NCL in Japan was a little looser. Because I don't know the regions of a lot of these games like Clock and Calendar and, the asset flipped games, where they're coming from. Are these European or Asian-based indie studios? Indie studios used very loosely? Or are they American-based? Because each region early on seemed as though they had their own set of rules and who they were allowing access to the eShop. But we have also seen Sony battle their fair share of very random things like Abandoned.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So it does seem as though we are all in agreement that we need some form of curating done on the eShop going into the Switch 2. We don't want just anything and everything up there. It's okay to reject games that aren't games, or just asset flipped games. Like, here's a pizza box. Flip open the cover. It costs $1.29. Why? I mean, Sony has those as well because they're very easy platinum trophy, and people want to get their trophies as easy as possible to artificially inflate their numbers to show off. But there's a time and place for those type of products. And I don't think the eShop needs them. You could trim down so much of the crap on the store if you just had tighter rules in place. And I know, as you said, Celia, it's not any easier, but in some form it must be if we're having these types of products just appear on the eShop.
Yeah. I want to know their secret.
You try too hard. They set the bar so low that they can only go up. You set the bar too high, so now if you go any lower, they're like, this isn't up to standard. Do it again. Submit it again. We don't like it. You try too hard.
Maybe.
That's the problem.
Your ambition caught the better of you.
Next
Damn.
game, Shovel Knight Calculator.
I'm surprised you guys haven't done that already. I thought you guys would have jumped on the calculator craze when all that
we
happened.
keep on joking like Picross and like we keep on joking like silly things like that, but not as basic as calculator. But maybe we should. We could set it for $1, raise the ranks on the eShop, and it'd be just real cool.
You want a $10 million idea for a game with Shovel Knight?
Is it calculator?
It's not. This is actually a good idea. MVG is going to get very excited when he hears it.
Go
You
on.
can make it physical.
So you have a lot of characters in the Shovel Knight universe now, all with their unique abilities, right?
Yes.
Okay. Shovel Knight obviously has a shovel he can dig. You should make a Shovel Knight game inspired by Lemmings, which
yes.
each Shovel Knight character doing a specific task to solve puzzles in a Lemming-style environment.
I love this.
We've learned that puzzle games do not sell well. So
Damn it.
I feel like that's a...
I know this is probably the old boomers in us getting excited about this game.
Like, to me, I think that's very exciting and I would play it. But I think we would have a lot of issues getting a lot of attention from that. But I would love it.
We just want Lemmings to come back.
Yeah, make it a Switch 2 launch game, and you'll probably get a lot of attention, big sales.
Does Limited Run want to promise us a physical deal with a minimum guarantee that couplers double the protection cost? If so, I would love to talk.
We can definitely have a conversation, but I'm not sure about those terms, but we can definitely talk about it.
You just block me. That's the conversation. Unrelated, but related. I did look up because I was like, I could have sworn that I bought the Switch code on Nintendo.com for Stardew. No, I bought it from Target.
Yeah, see, you had to go to an outlet to get the code.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I remember going on there and I think I got frustrated trying to buy it online. And then I just bought it on Target.
That's exactly
But I remember going to Nintendo.com. So I think that's why I was misremembering.
That's exactly what happened to me when I was trying to get Josie a code for Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I couldn't find it, and then I had to go to Amazon to get one.
Yeah, I could have sworn.
So yes, gifting.
That's the crazy idea.
So any other last minute wants or hopes for a Switch 2 eShop in terms of features and functionality?
I think I'm good with what we've said. I'm really kind of digging, to try to get something more out of this. But honestly, if they can give us that, if they can give us half of that, I'd be pretty happy because it's a lot better than what we currently have. So, I think some of these things are going to happen. But hopefully we'll get all of it. What do you think, Celia?
I have one last nitpick. It's so wild and crazy. I can't believe I'm saying this. But on the eShop, when I've bought a game, please don't show me my game again. That's my crazy idea. Because I know when I've bought stuff before and I've looked through, it'll show that I've purchased it, which is great. But that's space that could be loading a game I didn't buy. And I have a lot of games. So.
All right, that's an interesting suggestion, actually. I don't hate it.
I do, because it takes so long to load. And if it's just I'm scrolling and I'm seeing games that I want and it's taking so long, I get really mad. I get boomer mad at things when things take too long.
So basically, I don't want to be in front of you in a line.
Am I hungry or am I not hungry in this situation?
You're in line for food.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. I'm on a warpath for no reason.
And I'm sitting there looking at the menu like, oh, I think I want
Are you
what's
the
on this
guy,
one?
Nate, are you the guy that goes to Subway and then forgets how to make a fucking sandwich?
I don't go to Subway, but no, if I go to a deli, I know what I'm getting on a sandwich.
Okay. Okay, good. Then you could be in front of me in line. It's allowed.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, for the eShop, I'm going in with Nintendo. I think Nintendo's going to overhaul it substantially. I think it's going to run nice and smooth, at least for the first year or two. I think it's going to deliver on what the consumer and what third party and indie partners want. I think it's going to have that discoverability. It's going to just allow a lot of success for the partners, and us as the consumer, we're going to be able to find what we're looking for without having to trudge through a field of crap to find it. It's going to be a lot smoother. It's going to be more streamlined. And I'm very hopeful that Nintendo is going to nail the eShop on the Switch 2, and we're going to be able to navigate it without issue. But with that, we pivot to the Streamlabs question portion of the show. And our first Streamlabs question comes from Jackie G, who donated $1, and they write, let's get a check-in on Xbox physical releases. Do you expect one for Indiana Jones this year, Avowed and Fable next year?
There already is one for Indiana Jones, I believe. I was actually looking at maybe getting it. I think it's on Amazon right now. Avowed and Fable, don't know. I think probably both will have physicals. I think Fable would definitely have some type of fancy collector's edition because it's Fable. Avowed, it's a bit of an unknown. I'm not sure. If there's one that's not going to be physical, it's probably Avowed, I would say.
I mean, I think all three will have physical releases.
And I'm right in saying that Indiana Jones has a physical already, correct? I'm pretty sure I've seen it.
Yeah, it has a collector's edition as well. You get a globe.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Then had a $1 donation from Liam Werner. Question for MVG. What do you think the longevity is for a 3DS cartridge or a new 3DS XL? New as in the Pro model, the DS in question itself is about 7 years out of box at this point. Also, what do you think is the best way to extend its longevity?
I'm not really too up to speed on the duration of the cartridge slots on those systems, but I would say you're going to get at least another 5, 7, maybe 10 years out of it. And I'm saying that if you're someone that is just a more than casual user of those handhelds. So I wouldn't be too concerned about wearing out your cartridge slot on the older Nintendo handhelds. But your second question, or the second part, is what I was going to get at, and that is, look, it's a meme at this point, right? But everyone needs to hack their 3DS, right? So one of the good things about doing that is you can just dump the cartridge to your SD card storage. So I would recommend you do that. Put I don't remember what the application's called, but there is an application once you hack your 3DS or your DS where you can just dump anything onto the storage media. So I would just do that. It preserves the longevity of the cartridge slot. So yeah, just go that route, and I think your system will basically survive as long as you want it to survive at that point. So yeah, good luck, and let us know how you fare with that. But get that 3DS hacked. I think that's the key thing.
Then had a $5 donation from Goat816. What would be a reason third-party developers, in particular Western third-party developers, would not bring their current or new games to Switch 2?
I'm going to let Celia answer this one.
Reasons that they would not. I mean, it just depends on the production schedule of your studio. Do you have the bandwidth to do that?
Do you believe that there is a market that would be interested in your game in their ecosystem? Do you have the funds to do it? Like porting, though it sounds easy, if things don't line up, like it costs money. It's studio effort. Like, do you have your hands full? Can you not afford an outside porting studio? Like there's so many factors to it. It kind of just depends, who are you and if it makes sense financially. The world's tough out there and it's very expensive to make games, and it can be expensive to port games as well.
I also think that you're kind of at the mercy of a new system, and everything is in a bit of a state of flux as far as dev kits, SDKs, functionality that you may need is not quite ready yet. So you're basically just kind of rolling with the punches a bit, and if you don't have the capital, if you don't have the resources and money to kind of cushion those blows, if it arises, then you may be in a situation where you may run out of money at that point. So it may actually be better in some scenarios, depending on the studio, especially if you are a smaller company, where you kind of just sit on the sidelines and wait a little bit for things to get a little more stable before you kind of make your move. But I think that's probably the only thing I could think of. Otherwise, you want to get your stuff on the Switch too as quickly as you can. I think most people do once it's available.
You also have to consider that it will depend on the engine being used and the scope of the game itself, and whether or not it is technically feasible to scale the game to the Switch 2. And in the early years, depending on the games in question for these companies, due to an unfamiliarity with the Switch 2 hardware and some of its, the feature set, they may not bring immediate games. It may be something more for the distant future when they become more familiar with the hardware and the features that the hardware is providing them, and they will be able to allocate the necessary budget and assets to ensure that they can do a quality port. So it's a lot of economic issues. It's all about everything Celia was saying and some of the technical issues. But generally speaking, if a company can make a port happen and it's technically feasible and it's financially feasible, companies will do so. But there will be cases where a Western game doesn't come over to the Switch 2, and people can speculate and get angry when that day comes. But there's always reasons behind these decisions. There's always a business reason that the public just isn't privy to. Then had a $100 donation from the Zelda Sensei, whom this episode is dedicated to. And they write, "Hope you both had a great summer. Thanks as always for the podcast. What games are next on your playlist? I'm currently playing Pizza Tower before Echoes of Wisdom is released."
Celia, what are you playing? Or what's next on your list?
God, I have too much. So I'm finishing up a space for the Unbound. I'm finishing that up. Amazing game, by the way. I have a key for the Plucky Squire, so I'm playing that next. I have a save file on Visions of Mana. All these games are coming out at once, and I have too many. And then the last one, I think it's called Castaway. It's a Zelda-like.
Oh, yeah. I know. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, so I have that game as well, and I'm just so excited for it. It's a bite-sized adventure. So I have that list, and then next month there's a bunch of other games, like the new Metaphor game, which is a Persona spinoff, and I also have the new Life is Strange game on the horizon too. So very big list, lots of games to play, very little time. How about you guys?
So for me, I just finished Astrobot, like the rest of the world. So I just bought the Dead Rising remaster, and I'm going to start playing that tomorrow when the game unlocks. I'm very excited about playing that. I saw some reviews. I know there's a little bit of some changes that were done, but I don't think it's going to affect me at all. I'm going to be very, very happy to play that again. And I will be playing the Shattered Space DLC from Starfield on September the 30th, Nate, I believe is the date it's going live. So I'll be all over that. And beyond that, we'll see. I mean, I've got my eye on Assassin's Creed. I think that's going to be a big one for me this year. Also going to check out Indiana Jones, but that's obviously a little bit further away. But yeah, Dragon Age is another game that I will probably play as well. I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully it reviews well. But yeah, there's no shortage of video games between now and the rest of the year to get to sink my teeth into. So I'm very excited. What about you, Nate? What's on your list?
I'm currently playing Time Splitters on PlayStation 5 because they added trophies. I will be playing The Plucky Squire because it was added to PlayStation Plus Premium or whatever the tier is called. I'll be playing Silent Hill 2 in early October.
Of course.
We'll also be playing Life is Strange when it comes out next month. We'll give Echoes of Wisdom a look. Indiana Jones, Flight Simulator when it comes out later this year. Too many games to really just mention off the top of my head because there's plenty of games still to come this year. And Prince of Persia also just got a DLC release this week. So I'll be giving that new content a look very soon. So lots of games to play, but right now I'm going to try to get the platinum in Time Splitters in the next couple of days because it really doesn't require all that much time, luckily. Then had a $1 donation from Colorboy. What do you think about the diminishing returns effect affecting PS5 Pro and potentially Switch 2? Are we touching the limit of reasonable technology in video games?
I don't really think we can talk about the Switch 2 diminishing returns at this point because we don't know anything about the hardware at this juncture other than speculation and just chatter that's been going around. So we really have to kind of just put that one to the side for the moment. But I think that PlayStation 5 diminishing returns, honestly, I haven't really read too much into this. So I know Digital Foundry has been covering it and stuff like that, but I haven't really been following it, Nate, to be honest. I'm not really that interested. I don't care. So I think, people that want enthusiast level products, they're going to pay good money for it, and they will. But for me, it doesn't really doesn't really affect me, I guess, too much. So.
You then had a donation from JBell171 of $5, and they write, I know you don't care about numbers, but how does John have 724,000 and you have 24,000? LOL. We make long form content, so it's less appealing to a mass audience. And John does daily uploads, and we do once a week, maybe twice a month, depending the month. Then had a $1 donation from Uncle Squingus. You may have covered this, but do you think the lack of game releases for H1 2025 points to a March-April Switch 2 release? Or could they be planning a summer launch without a notable release for the preceding 4 months, maybe filling a month with Metroid Prime 4? It's hard to really determine the launch timing based on what Nintendo has detailed so far in terms of their early 2025 software release schedule. Nintendo could always still announce games for the first half of next year for the Switch. I mean, right now the rumors lean towards an April release or sometime in the new fiscal year for Nintendo for the Switch 2, though there is still the belief of maybe they can make this current fiscal year and have it out in March. But right now, I don't think we can really read too much into the first half of 2025's release schedule to determine anything in relation to the Switch 2 itself. Then had a $1 donation from Switch It Up. Do you think the Switch 2 will eat into Series S sales? Their audience don't really mind the premium graphics. It seems that with Xbox want their games everywhere, the Switch 2 seems like a great replacement for the Series S. I don't think the Series S sales will be cannibalized by the Switch 2 directly. The Xbox is already struggling significantly to sell hardware units as is. There could be some overlap of a Series S interested buyer going to the Switch 2 because of Nintendo's appealing products, and that may attract some of those potential customers. But at this stage of the generation, especially for the Series S, I'd say if you were interested in the Series S, you have likely already committed to it. You're not really waiting on the sidelines. So I don't think there'd be too much cannibalization in terms of Switch 2 and Series S. But I do think the Switch 2 will appeal to some individuals who may currently own a Series S and want to be able to play games in a portable form factor and still have reasonable visuals from a docked Switch 2. Then had a $1 donation from Liam Warner. What are your thoughts on the weird dual screen Switch 2 rumors that have randomly popped up in the past couple of days? Seems some of the source hinting at it are at least slightly credible, but the idea just seems off no matter how you slice it. All I've seen is I believe it was a Taiwanese economic report suggesting they were hearing marketing chatter that maybe it would be dual screen. I don't believe there's been any other credible reports to suggest that is the case, but we have seen the patent of a dual screen concept. I believe it was in late 2023 surface. And if they did go that path, I would be very interested to see how they utilize it in a meaningful way where it doesn't repeat the mistakes of the past like the Wii U. But right now, I don't really put much stock into that rumor. I think it was just market speculation of maybe this is the gimmick Nintendo would employ with the Switch 2. But until something more concrete surfaces, I really can't envision Nintendo going with a dual screen concept again for a home console. Then had a $5 donation from Ria. When do you think we will next hear more information from the Zelda movie, such as the cast? That is a great question, and given the speed that Hollywood operates at, maybe we'll begin to hear something next year. I'm unsure the exact intended release window for the movie from memory at the moment, but they're definitely going to be looking for a cast very soon as they're working on that script. And we'll probably first hear that the script is complete. Then we'll hear about the casting details. But maybe sometime next year we get a little more insight into the project and who they're looking to cast for the role of Link. Then had a $5 donation from Regular Ruler. Hey Nate, what are your thoughts on the dual screen mode? Do you think the technology is there to have a Wii U gamepad level latency, maybe 1080p 60 FPS, stream from an undocked console to either the dock or some sort of smart TV app? I mean, I'd say the technology is there. I would just question whether or not that concept really could be a fruitful endeavor for Nintendo. And if it's really a gimmick they want to explore again after finding so much success with the Switch as a hybrid system. I think the only benefit of having a dual screen concept would be if it is a detachable second screen and you could hand it to an individual in the room to do some local multiplayer on a single unit. But beyond that, I'd really prefer Nintendo to just do a one screen concept, because if you do the dual screen, some of that processing power now has to go to render that secondary image, and I don't want to see them compromise any performance possibilities. I want them to put out the strongest hardware they can and utilize all the features at their utmost and not have a second screen to worry about. And the final question comes from Aomine2077. They donated $5. Hi, do you think Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories isn't on other platforms because of Phil Collins' presence in the game? That could potentially be a factor, though Rockstar also didn't do anything with Liberty City Stories. I believe that only came to PS2 after the PSP.
Yep.
So it might just be kind of the spin-offs that Rockstar they don't look at as a priority to bring elsewhere. I feel as though if they did want to bring them, it would have been the opportune time to include them in the Grand Theft Auto collection from a few years back. But they may just not really view the titles as all that important or worth doing a remaster or an HD version of, unfortunately, because I did enjoy Vice City Stories. But that is the final Streamlabs question for the episode. If you'd like to support the channel, we have a Streamlabs link in the description below. Donate any dollar amount, ask a question, we will answer it at the end of the episode. Donate $100 or more, we will dedicate the episode to you. And with that, I'd like to thank Celia for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was a fun chat.
And MVG for joining me as always.
Thank you, Nate, as always, and thank you, Celia, for being our guest on. It was a very, very good chat tonight.
And be sure to like the video if you enjoyed this episode. Give it an upvote. If you didn't like it, give it a downvote. And be sure to subscribe to the channel as we rapidly approach 25,000 subscribers. But until next time, continue to embrace the hate.
With Nate and MVG, dissecting all the lies. Make the hate rocket hard. MVG dropping knowledge bombs. Best podcast sitting strong, guiding us where we belong. Through the pixels and the codes, breaking down what future holds. Nate and MVG showing us the gaming gold.